In that conversation, what sentiment did you get from Netanyahu about his plan and what he wants to do next?
Well, the first thing is that he was reticent about his failures or the failures of the government and others on the day, which is very striking. There have been apologies from heads of the IDF, the intelligence services and others. But, of course, for Netanyahu himself, admitting any political failure, of course, would be disastrous for him. He's, of course, Prime Minister. He's running this war with the war cabinet in Israel. He was very careful about answering questions about personal culpability or indeed failings on the day. Nevertheless, as he said, obviously there were masses of failings on the 7th, and he, of course, as I say, was careful about that. But there's a lot, clearly, that Israel has to learn from the 7th. As for the war in Gaza, he says that he's going to continue for as long as it takes to root out Hamas. That's, of course, very important because America, the American allies of Israel and other international allies have been calling on Israel to not just limit the war, but to draw it to a close soon. Netanyahu, therefore, clearly realizes he has a window before he can defeat Hamas, but also a window in which effectively there's this difficulty for him politically on the international stage. The difficulty of allies basically saying you're running out of time, particularly, of course, America. And we'll see how much time he actually has.
There's a huge amount of internal pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu as well. I mean, Ehud Barak, his political rival and a former Israeli general, just said, in the name of God, go. How far away do we think this country is from an election which could see the end of Netanyahu's grip on power?
Well, at the moment, there's no talk about that because the concentration is purely on the hostages, on defeating Hamas, and on those questions, Israeli public and indeed most of the political class are pretty united. Barak hasn't been in power for a long time. Of course, he's going to be critical of Netanyahu. The real question, I think, in relation to this is, are they allowed to, is Israel, are the IDF allowed to finish the job of defeating Hamas in Gaza? And are there, of course, and I asked the Prime Minister this very tricky question, which is, you simultaneously say you want to destroy Hamas and you have to work to negotiate with Hamas in order to release the remaining hostages. He was adamant about this, that only one thing actually gets the hostages released, which is pressure on Qatar that then puts pressure on Hamas.
I think it's, at this moment, sort of helpful to hear what Netanyahu said, Douglas, when you said to him, look, if you're going to pursue this course militarily, and if you have to do that with shaky or limited international support, what will that look like? Let's just see what Netanyahu said.
Let's say you have to do it militarily, which seems to some of us to be the most likely outcome, let's say. What international support would you have for that, given the tense relationships the world seems to have with what you've already been doing in Gaza?
Look, we have to do, you know this statement, a man's got to do what a man's got to do.
I do.
Remember the days when you could actually say that? Well, today you say a person has to do what a person has to do, okay? Well, let me extend that. A nation has to do what it has to do to survive. And if we have to take action both in the South and in the North that is understood by many to be a just action but cannot be but they cannot stand the heat of public opinion, then we'll just have to do it alone. And we'll do what we need to do.
Got to go soon.
Douglas, how much do you think Netanyahu is at risk of alienating its probably biggest supporter, the US?
Well, the crucial thing, I've got to wrap up soon quite quickly here, there's stuff going on, but the crucial thing is that he was saying that he was willing to go it alone, but just bear in mind what has happened in the hours since I sat down with him. 3 American troops killed in Jordan, Jordanian-Syrian border, apparently from an Iranian drone. It's a reminder that Israel is involved in a regional conflict here, and one which is involving the proxies of Iran. But other countries are involved too. Britain is involved in the maritime action against the Houthis, who are Iranian-backed, and British ships and vessels have been attacked. And now we see, once again, another Iranian proxy attacking, or possibly Iran itself attacking American troops in Jordan. That just is a reminder that whether or not America wants to be involved, America is already involved.
Douglas, thank you so much for speaking to us.